What's going on, traders? Today is Sunday, so if you've been following our channel, you know that today is our weekly review. I'm Antoine Farrar, and welcome back to another trading video with Digital Goats Academy. So let's go ahead and get into the trading session. So last week we got exactly what we were looking for as far as like a breakout is concerned within the market, right? So, not to mention, if you've been following our channel, do me a solid and hit that subscribe button. Always, our discussion mainly consists of indices. We might tap into, other currency pairs, but the main thing we focus on is indices because I believe at Digital Goats, that's where the money is at within the market, as well as like a little bit of commodities also. But let's go ahead and get into what happened last week and where we are currently. So where is Sunday at? Always do this, trying to find Sunday. Okay, this was last Sunday, right? Yep, this was last Sunday. Yeah, I remember. We didn't have a gap down or any form of gaps, which normally that's what we expect, but we didn't have any gaps that happened on Monday. Let me back out a little bit. So we can see we basically continued from Friday. So that should normally be an expectation of like the market should continue. I wouldn't say should, but that should be an expectation that whatever currency pair you look, well, when it pertains to indices, Sunday should continue Friday's move if it's incomplete or if it's not a level of structure such as support or resistance. So you can see that we were already expecting for price to come to this area. You know what I'm saying? We had mentioned this. We weren't sure if price was going to come back to this zone. Now this zone we have, this green zone that has the numbers 0505, that's marking the date. So obviously that's May 5th. And that is our 9:45 candle. I promise you, this shit works. So you zone up on a 15-minute time frame, and then you just, extend your zone and see if price comes back down here within the trading session. With us using this, you can identify 9:45 structure or 9:45 a.m. candle zones all over, but there are some that basically price leaves and doesn't come back to that area until later. So whenever you do mark it up and then you extend your zone, you're like, man, 9:45 a.m. candle, it didn't get a pullback like we're normally used to seeing. And I can show you with an example of another currency pair. So we can go to NASDAQ and all those green zones you see. Right here, those are 9:45 candles. I first started using this system. Let's go ahead and call it a system because it might not be foolproof next year. But anyway, we started using this system towards the beginning of this year, right? So I started, identifying that, man, price loves to come back into this area after I've identified the 9:45 candle, which again we mark it up on a 15-minute time frame. And then I extend it. And then you can see that price tested this area. The sell was still valid, but it tested this area a couple times. So anytime I see where price like hasn't tested that area, for example, well, the zone, I expect price to come back and try to test that zone at least once before going in whatever direction it's going to go. So that's what I came to that conclusion when it comes to US 30. That's why I was so adamant that price may want to return. I mean, we had something similar that happened in April 16th. We had something similar where price, and I think I mentioned that, where price bought up, started basically accumulating orders, or you could say range. Well, really, this was consolidation, and then broke back down in order to test this area and buy back up. And you see, it never returned, and it kind of did it in the same fashion, where price, um, build its. Well, what am I struggling with? It built it builded its bullish momentum, and as you can see, it started creating resistance within still the 9:45 candle system that we're using, and then price pushed back down what to May 5th. This was May. Oh yeah, I'm tripping. This was May 5th, and then it pushed back down to May 18th, and then you can see like You can see that price broke out of this. Give me a second. Give me a second, traders. My back centered. Okay, yeah. But anyway, so even in the same fashion from April 16th, we can see that April 16th, price created, price basically broke out of consolidation. This was consolidation as well. Again, similar patterns that we're seeing. It doesn't have to happen the same way, but in some shape or form, it's happening in the same sequence. So consolidation over here, we broke out of the consolidation. We started creating high points. Price said, "This is what I want to do," which we discussed about indices. Price wants to, get you comfortable thinking that price is going to continue and then come back and do its actual pullback later. But we had this identified. So price pushed up again, creating resistance off of this 945 candle, which was off of April 21st, pushed down. Again, we could still use it in both directions. This could have been a potential sell opportunity. I don't like taking sells when I know that price is bullish, but you could have taken this as a sell opportunity. Look what price did right here. Push all the way down in order to do what? Now we are a few Sundays back, but I'm just showing you the similarities in the sequence. This was the test of what? The previous high over here. I don't want to do any markups because we already have these charts littered with markups. But anyway, another area where basic market structure or basic concepts of trading. Price breaks out of a previous high in order to continue the trend. What should it do? That resistance should now be support. This resistance over here is now support. This is where price tested it at. Let me see how it looks on the candlestick. Yeah, this is price where price decided to test that. And we already had this level of support marked up. All we did was extend it. I didn't know that price was going to come back, but it was really testing this other side, which this kind of looks like a inverted head and shoulder now that I'm looking at it. But it tested this other side of wicks. We created structure because we have candlesticks on the opposite side of what? These wicks over here. But what's important is this move. You know what I'm saying? We broke out of here. We tested the high. Now we're doing rinse and repeat. Consolidation. This was from May 5th. Broke up, created resistance. Same thing. 945 candle. Goddamn, it's on repeat going both ways. We can't make this any simpler. Now, of course, there's manipulation where like fake outs, but you should expect price to react towards what? Any form of structure if it's only revisit that area within that like trading sequence, if it's only revisit that area like once. And again, what identifies structure? Don't make it harder than what it needs to be. Keep it to a line chart. So it's like you see the clear forms of structure. Line chart solidifies structure within the market. You don't see like a dip or you don't see like a spike up, then you should be concerned that price may want to fill that in order to create that pattern. Again, the market is made up entirely of patterns, even though traders fail to recognize that. Everybody wants to use their fancy technique, but it's really just patterns. You learn the patterns, you follow the sequence, right? So same thing over here. We already identified this 945 candle. Price pushed down after selling off of this resistance, which was a 945 candle. And then we did what? We tested this again to create a swing low. And then what do we do on the opposite side? I know there's a lot going on, so let me clear that up. We did the same thing as we saw back here. We broke out of this high and we came back and tested what was once resistance. This was once resistance, now it's support. And what did it do for us? Create the support we need in order to push the market up. And this validates that yes, we're buying up. We just need what? Another pullback for price to basically validate or create some form of support, which should be where? Around the previous level of resistance. You know what I'm saying? Now that we broke out of all this shit, really you want to focus on where we're at currently. Oh, bug try to get in my spot. Can't have that. A wasp. Right there at the window too. I mean, right there at the door too. But anyway, I wanted to see. So yeah, we spent a little bit of time down here too. I know it looks clear. This was kind of chaos because it kept testing this area over and over, even after we broke out of this previous level of resistance down here. But again, even if we didn't know like all this extra shit that I'm talking about, remember, find the sequence, find the sequence and the pattern where what has been common for us to see, where price wants to test Sunday, either create support or test the previous high. Now, if we were selling, obviously we would say the previous low, but test the previous high out of this area. Um, that's what's been happening. And it's not consistent with every Sunday. But again, you start noticing, damn, this did this like 3 Sundays ago, 4 Sundays ago, where price came out of broke out of Sunday, really just consolidated, but gave the visuals that it was trying to break higher, and then came back and created either sound structure, which would have been support, or testing a previous high and then shot up. I think last time we saw this, it did create actual support, but you could still say that this is support. You know what I'm saying? Like different traders identify things differently, but again, when you siphon through different time frames, it will show you a different visual anyway. So me, I'm treating this as a previous high because I already have consolidation marked off, and I'm normally looking at consolidation when I'm looking at buys for a price to only test the high. I'm not really looking at it to create support. But if you want to validate this as support, that's cool. But again, this was just basically price breaking out of a high, coming back to test said high, how we expect, and then make the market go on a rally, which it did. So now that we have a new phase because price has already broken out of these level of resistance, I mean these previous levels of resistance, I'm saying the right thing. We should expect price to at least come back to what? At least this high. Could come back lower. We know that. We know that there's probably a smaller, lower high that price wants to come back to versus like these previous highs, because that's just how indices operate, or that's just how the market operates, especially if the momentum is like low. Over here, I think the momentum is pretty high. Let's look at it. Let's clear this up. Yeah, based off the daily, so we probably should get a gap down. Um, if prices is going to open up the way I think, we should get a gap down, maybe like a slight push down even more, and then buy back up, which would align what? That would align us where? Let me do this real quick. So remember, we can do this on Hakanashi too. I know I'm doing a little bit more teaching, but well, hell, we already have it made right here, but I'm gonna do another one in red. Let's say this is half. If we do a fib, we can really see where it's half. You can't really rate it as that, but that would be considered half. 618 would definitely be a golden zone, so I'm gonna just roll with the 618 and say that that's close enough to half. So if price were to gap down, even if it doesn't gap down and it wants to push down, it should push back one to this imbalanced candle over here, or back into what, this 945 candle, which I would probably like to see price do that because I would rather try to test the overall high broken out of it instead of just trying. Well, that'll still meet us up with that imbalanced candle. You see? So that's 38%, but I'm looking at 50 of this imbalanced candle. I'm looking at price. It's got to test the high. Like for me to feel comfortable, it's got to test the high. So where's the high at right here? So the closer we are right here makes me comfortable for a continuation for the buy. Hold on again real quick. Yeah, lifestyle, yo. I'm cooking while I'm trading. You feel me? So yeah, basically, price coming back to this area, like that'll make me feel comfortable. I knew that because this is only the second time. Remember, anytime, I mean, there are still variables. That's why I did that. Like I kind of hesitated because there are variables where price could continue pushing up, but we still have to apply basic trading knowledge. We break out of a previous high. I mean, a previous level of resistance, which is a previous high. Price should want to come back and test said resistance in order to validate that, yes, I am continuously trending up because I corrected myself. We know that price can't just infinitely shoot up, can't infinitely shoot down because that'll mess up the whole economy structure, right? So what we should expect is probably just based off of Hakanashi's on the daily, I would expect price to gap down because whenever Hakanashi opens up, it is going to be another bull candle, but it normally opens up a little bit lower. If we're looking for buys, you should expect price to open up lower versus higher. Because if it's opening up high, it may be trying to actually sell. So we expect price to open up, probably a gap down, and then a push down close to this area. I would like to say, and man, we normally don't do this on weekly review, because this should be market forecast information. But just kind of outline because we spoke about this anyway. We spoke about this on our live trading call on Thursday that once we get a breakout, price should want to come back to this area. Remember, we saw this already happen from May 5th, and then it finally did it on what was that, May 18th? Yeah, on May 18th. So now price could continue. We already know that it's bullish. So it's just wherever price decides to pull back here. If it pulls back here this week and give us what we need, great. If it doesn't pull back here this week, we definitely have to pay attention to price trying to come back down here. And again, getting traders comfortable again to do another liquidity sweep, or if they do, whatever next interest rate decision we have, if they're like unchanged, what we've been seeing is that price has been coming down during the interest rate decision. So I wouldn't be surprised if we are continuing to go up. Um, if they do a rate cut, that should bring us down again. And I would definitely, if we do have a interest rate decision coming up soon, I would think that it's probably going to be somewhere around this area. So within, the big three, I'm mainly focusing on US 30. So like I said, my narrative hasn't changed, my directional bias. I'm still looking at price to continue on a bull run. It's just that now that we're one, we've broken this area finally, but again, this is only the second time we've been there. So we should expect price to try to come back at least to this area before trying to buy up. And again, this is consolidation. We can do all the all the particulars about like trading, but it's like just keep it simple. This is a previous level of resistance. Price broke out of it. We should expect it to retest it and then continue pushing up from there. So that's what I'm thinking with US 30, especially like with what we produced last week. So last week was definitely important for us, especially us needing to break out of here. But we discussed this that um, US 30 should play catch up to S&P and NASDAQ as far as like the visuals, as far as like breaking out of structure. So this is our first sign, but US 30 is probably going to need to do one more correction or two more corrections before actually trying to break up and hit these levels that we expect. Remember, Trump has it going to 100K. He has US 30 going to 100K either towards the end of his term or by the end of his term. I'm looking at probably before because when he said that US 30 was going to 50K, I think it went to 50K either that same conference or the following like couple days. So he obviously knows something that we don't know. And anything he says seems to be very influential in the market, which I'm gonna, stay to those numbers. Those numbers haven't been like off. And when we look at even outside of like the economic data, when we look at the directional bias, price has been telling us, hey, I'm trying to go fucking up, right? So S&P, let's look at it real quick. S&P kind of confused me. I actually thought that S&P and NASDAQ were gonna push down a little bit more. So you can see that it basically did again consolidation downward, but if it didn't break to the downside, we could have taken the opportunity to buy, which somebody in my group was trading S&P, And I thought I considered of getting an S&P, but I was like, I'm already trading US 30. Where is last Sunday? So Sunday's over here. Yeah, so same thing, push down. We talked about this price pushing down to this consolidation zone. As you can see, it dropped a little bit lower, but we still had an area. We talked about this area specifically that price may want to test it, and then we thought that these were the moves, but price said, I'm actually going to do this 100%. And we mentioned that because we know that within the pattern of a morning star pattern, price should want to either test at least 50% or 100, which would make support for it. It made support for it after this leading candle. And remember, we were kind of skeptical that price may have tried to like dive down a little bit lower and go below this area. But to me, this is exactly what I wanted to see. Not exactly. I mean, trust me, it looked like this shit looked like it was selling last week. And I'm saying that on the visuals on how the market was moving. I didn't believe that it was selling, but shit. Trust me, it looked like this motherfucker was selling. So if you were pressing the sell button, I really can't blame you because every time it had a spike up, like the reaction would be the volatility would bring the market down sharply. And I mean, those candles really look like, yo, I'm trying to come down until we finally had our support built here, which we mentioned. We mentioned this on actually live trading that price would build support because what? This is consolidation. We're already in a gigantic consolidation zone, but this is consolidation right here. I just didn't want to, overlap it with the same color just to identify that. And it didn't touch test within it, but it maintained its high in the neighborhood. Remember, we're trying to be in the fucking neighborhood. We're not trying to get sniper entry. So don't be the trader that wouldn't have taken this trade because it's like, well, I gotta see it. I'm gonna take the early entry because if I miss that shit, I'm gonna be mad. Now we may have a second opportunity if price decides to come back here and test this again, which could happen because what I think now is that S&P, NASDAQ are going to be ranging while US 30 is going to be breaking highs to allow it to catch up. We haven't broken this high yet, so I expect S&P and NASDAQ to try to give some fight back. Let me see. So same thing, you know what I'm saying? Like I expected them to range to allow US 30 to catch up on how the trend should be. Because remember, US 30, I mean, S&P and NASDAQ have been breaking their highs already, like just shooting to the fucking moon. So it makes sense if their correction phase is just going to be them moving sideways and ranging, allowing US 30 to actually, break these highs and then go into a range mode itself as we get closer to Q3. I don't think we'll range. We'll probably start ranging towards like the middle of end of Q3. You know what I'm saying? Definitely beginning of Q4, where price is going to be trying to probably push the market down to these levels that it's probably going to start to run away from. So we definitely should be getting just based off the time period, we should definitely be getting like extremely bullish. Like the rally should be like stupid from here until we get closer to October. That's just my thoughts on it. And but my thoughts been lining up with the market, even if they haven't been accurate. They've just been either positions off or time frame off. But there's nothing you could do about it as a trader. You know what I'm saying? This is why we keep our markups and do our zones and shit. So I don't want to go into S&P. S&P, I mean not S&P, NASDAQ. It made me think that it was selling compared to S&P and US 30. But remember, we could see NASDAQ do a little bit different than its brother and sister. You know what I'm saying? So kind of keep that in mind when you're looking at the charts. But yeah, I'm prepared for this week. Tomorrow is Memorial Day. So if you're on the East Coast tomorrow, well, not the East Coast. If you're on the west side of the world, tomorrow is Memorial Day. So for the United States, that's going to affect our trading. Besides currency pairs should be somewhat okay, but you still have, unless your broker shuts you out, you should have limited ability to trade. So I don't know how the market is going to react today, but we'll either get closed out early today or they won't let us trade tomorrow and we'll probably shut down close to noon. So just have that in mind if you're confused, like, yo, why the hell my trades like are frozen or why can't I exit out of my position? Just be mindful of that. But yeah, I think that's all I wanted to push out. Yeah, so that's all I got, traders. I will see everybody on the next video with Digital Goats Academy, which will be our market forecast, which is on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Remember, YouTube, we're going to start doing these things live. So the schedule is not going to change unless I change it. So if you've been tuning into our videos, you kind of know the time frames that I'm doing this, even though I'm not doing it live on YouTube, besides like the live trading on Thursday. But yeah, that's all I got. Hope y'all have a successful trading week. And I'll catch you on the next video with Digital Goats Academy. I'm Antoine Farrar, as always, signing off. Peace, traders.